So this is Forbidden Fortress. I basically brought along a selection of stuff, prototype material that we've been working on over the last year or so. And you can see there's a lot of different stuff here, a lot of different new heroes, a lot of different new enemies. You can see a lot of tiles for the Forbidden Fortress, which is of course set in feudal Japan. And you can also see new tiles on the reverse side for the Belly of the Beast.
Yeah.
So basically, I was just going to go through each of these things and talk about them for just a few minutes, so you can get an idea of what's new, what's different from the original Shadows of Brimstone. The first thing I'll say from the top is that as we've been playtesting and creating all this new material, it's definitely all still works seamlessly, integrating it with the original Shadows of Brimstone. So it basically just doubles the amount of content that's out there by adding in this entire new genre of feudal Japanese enemies and heroes and everything else. So why don't we talk about the map tiles a little bit first. So you'll notice that one thing you'll probably see right away is that some of the map tiles are absolutely gigantic, right? What we wanted to do when working on the Forbidden Fortress tiles was have an idea that you're picking your way through these castles that are overrun with crazy demons and mythological creatures, and we wanted to have that sense of internal space and external space. And so to try to accomplish that, we basically went with the idea that interior spaces are going to be a little bit smaller and oftentimes a little bit more geometrically shaped because they're inside these wooden and stone fortresses. And the exterior spaces are more like courtyards, so they tend to be a little bit more organically shaped and much larger pieces. That way, when you go into an interior space, it feels like it gets small, and you'll pass through a passage or a room, and then you'll open up the next door, and suddenly it opens into this giant piece that has a big statue in the courtyard. And so it gives you that sense of going through different sections of the castle. You'll also notice on a piece like this that there are these white lines that go around some of the space borders. Those are a new game element that was first introduced in the Derelict Ship. But it also appears in the Blasted Wastes and the Canyons and a few other worlds that are more recent. And it's part of the core set for Forbidden Fortress. Those are barriers. And barriers are kind of cool because when models are moving, they're basically not allowed to move across barriers. So they're movement blockers, but they don't block line of sight. So you can see across them, you can't move across them. There's one exception to that, and that is any model that can move through other models is allowed to cross over barriers. So in that way, when you have Tengu, these big flying demon swordsmen here, they can actually just fly right over those barriers. Even though your samurai or traveling monk has to walk the long way up the stairs, these guys can just descend across the barriers to attack you. And at the same time, somebody like your ninja assassin character, who can move through other models, can basically scale the walls with her claws or bounce off of trees and leap over walls, run along the top of the wall if you want even, like this kind of thing, to avoid monsters and to get around really wherever she needs to go. So it adds a cool new kind of tactical element to fights on any of those larger tiles that have barriers like that.
I have a lore question.
Sure.
Will Forbidden Fortress and Brimstone take place in the same timeline? So in theory, the people of Brimstone, some people in Brimstone might have known about the events that took place in Japan.
So the question was, does Forbidden Fortress and the original Shadows of Brimstone take place in the same timeline? So do people in Shadows of Brimstone, Old West, know about the events from the Forbidden Fortress? It sounds like Scott has a burning desire to answer this.
I'm just excited. I'm just excited to be here. So the thing is that Shadows of Brimstone and Forbidden Fortress give us a lot to work with because, not only do you get to delve into that genre of, the Old West or feudal Japan, but once you have demons coming through these portals, you can go through the portals, you can go to other worlds, you can go to alternate dimensions. No one says that it's the same time, so it's not necessarily just space, but also time and space. And so that opens up even more possibilities for future expansions and that kind of thing. But one of the things that means specifically to your question is that you are in feudal Japan in that time period, you were in the Old West in the 1800s in that time period. So it's wholly possible that once you have time travel involved, that there could be knowledge of facts, or you could meet your son or something. I don't know.
You know, perhaps you'll even find encounters or missions where you leave something in feudal Japan and then have to find it in the Old West. You never know. So we tend to do some crazy scenario type stuff like that with the missions. So that gets you a little bit of an idea of how the map tiles work for the Forbidden Fortress. And you'll notice that on the back of all of these, there are Belly of the Beast. So the Belly of the Beast, as a new world, basically is you pass through a portal and suddenly you're inside a giant creature that's so unfathomably large that it's an entire world unto itself. And you have no idea if there's even anything outside the creature because you've never seen the edges. It's just anytime you find a wall, even if you hacked through it, it would just lead to another chamber of the beast. And so that allows us to play with a lot of cool ideas and cool looks of kind of mucusy, slimy cell walls and you know, big sphincters in the wall and all sorts of kind of gross and weird things. And one of the things that I've been working on with Belly of the Beast is to push the line to be just gross enough that it's interesting and cool, but not so much that it turns people away. I'm trying to ride that knife's edge of, is it too gross? Maybe, probably not. Hopefully not.
Doesn't look like it.
Well, you haven't read all the encounters. All right. Now, one thing that's really fun with the Belly of the Beast is that, as you know from playing previous Shadows of Brimstone stuff, every world has its world card with some sort of world effect. And one of the primary effects in the Belly of the Beast is that it is a living world. And that means that anytime you run into a passage in the Belly of the Beast, there's actually a special passage encounters deck. And anytime you place a passage down in the Belly of the Beast, you draw a passage encounter to see what happens when the sphincter opens and that passage is revealed.
I would like to read one.
All right, Scott is going to read one passage encounter from the Belly of the Beast.
Find out if you cross the line.
Let's see if it's one of the more interesting ones or if it's one that's pretty simple.
This is pretty simple. Spongy floor. The moist and spongy floor sinks beneath your feet with each step, oozing a pale liquid as the fleshy tissues compress. Good? We're good? We're still in? All right, here, one more.
What's the effect?
Oh, I'm sorry. Who cares about the effect? No, it's an agility test for a random hero. It's if successful, you may it's agility 5+. You may heal D3 sanity. If failed, take D3 sanity damage, ignoring willpower.
So basically, you're using it as a bounce house if you.
Yeah. It's the bouncy castle. All right, so we have breathing vent. The air is thick and hot here, flowing past you in a sticky and rhythmic breeze. It sounds like Indianapolis the last couple of days, doesn't it? With each pulsing breath, the pathway opens up before you. At the end of the turn, every unexplored exit from this passage is automatically explored. Drawing a map card, move the hero party marker on the depth track, etc.
Yeah, so basically it opens up all the passages, or all the doors at the end of the passage.
The breathing vent.
So yeah. So there's an entire deck of passage encounters, and there's actually a few more cards for encounters in the Belly of the Beast than you'll find in most of the other worlds. So it's more twisting, turning, intestinal kind of passages that lead you from chamber to chamber. So it definitely has a very distinct feel when you're playing inside the Belly of the Beast. So that gets a good idea across of the map tiles. I can also point out we do have the doors here. These are 3D prints for the doorways, the plastic doorways we're going to be doing. We've got the Torii Gate arches here for the Forbidden Fortress, and then for the Belly of the Beast,
we wanted to have a ring of teeth around this side, and then the other side has hanging mucus. Where are we? Still good? Everybody's still good? Everybody's on board? Okay, good. We didn't lose anybody. Here we go.
All right, excellent. All right, so of course this is a full set of map tiles for the world, so you get a lot of unique rooms, a lot of passages, and some standard rooms as well.